Hello and welcome to Aging is for Everyone. I'm Laura Mondello and I'm your host for the show. Today we're talking all about family caregiving. It's a very important topic and I think it's touched a lot of lives. And here to tell us a little bit about what's going on locally and who can help those long distance family caregivers is Miriam Callahan from the Erie County Caregiver Resource Center. Welcome, Miriam.
Thank you, Laura. Always good to be here.
It is always good to have you here. Long distance caregiving, you know, there's a lot of people who live out of town. They can't be here to help mom and dad. You know, is that really what we mean when we're talking about those long distance caregivers? I mean, do you get calls from people like that?
We do, and one of the things that's so interesting is I just read an article that said anybody who lives an hour or more away from the care recipient is considered a long distance caregiver. So they don't necessarily need to live on the opposite coast.
Right.
But we do get those calls, and many times they're very frustrated callers. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. They may even have just become aware that something's going on with their loved one, and they don't know where to start.
Right, right. Now, what are some of the challenges they're calling you with? I mean, not knowing where to start is obviously one of the big ones, but, you know, what types of things are they looking for help with, like food or...
Well, sometimes they don't know what they want. They just know they want help and they need it right away. But they may have received a call from a neighbor or from someone in the town where their parents live saying, something's going on with your parents. Your dad doesn't look well. When we see him drive, we're really concerned. Your mom isn't dressed like she used to be. We think you need to come and see what's going on. So they panic and they call us at Erie County Department of Senior Services, and we're able to, first of all, calm them down and help them understand a little bit about what they should do first. And that's sometimes so helpful that they thank us just for listening, let alone for the information.
Right, right, right. Well, when you do get that call, and what are some of the things that people should do first, you know, as far as figuring out what they need to do?
Well, what we usually will try and do is see if we can get to visit the people who apparently need some help. And often there's someone locally who is a friend, even a clergy person, another relative, who can help coordinate that.
Right.
And we have a case manager who would go out and meet in the home with the person, do an assessment, just ask a lot of questions about what's going on and what unmet needs there are, who's helping, what else needs to be done, and then get back to that long distance caregiver and work on hopefully having the caregiver make a visit so they can see for themselves what the situation is, and then discuss various options. Maybe they need home delivered meals. Maybe they need to use transportation instead of driving themselves. Maybe they need adult daycare. If there's dementia involved, that adds another whole layer of stress and complication.
Right. Now, do you have situations where maybe there's a family member who's out of town, but there's another, you know, one of their siblings is in town and maybe they have a little problem deciding what to do?
Might you be referring to difficult family dynamics? Yes. That does happen, and many times the person in town is burned out, totally stressed because they're doing everything, and especially if the person in town is female and a nurse or a social worker, they get it dumped on them, and they resent the person out of town who's not doing anything. The person out of town feels guilty and stressed because they're not there hands-on to see what's happening. So there's ways that we can help them work through that. And one of the programs, and I know you're familiar with it, is Powerful Tools for Caregivers, that really works on helping caregivers, whether they're in town or long distance, learn how to communicate, how to make good decisions, have a family meeting. Oh, that is so important to figure out who can do what. And out-of-town caregivers can sometimes send in some financial assistance.
Right.
They can do the financial management out of
Right.
town, especially now with our technology. My goodness, I had one caregiver, long-distance caregiver, say to me, I can sit on the beach and do my parents' finances.
Right.
It's that easy. But you know what happens sometimes is the out-of-town caregivers say they don't want to butt in where they're not wanted, or they're
Right.
afraid to offer, so they hold back, and that's a real shame.
Right, right. And there may be some guilt there too, that they're not there to, do the real work of taking
yet-
mom to the doctor.
Yeah, and it's true that maybe the physical tasks fall on the person in town, but it can be very stressful and very difficult to do long distance caregiving too, because you're not there to hear what the doctor says. You're not there to see what's actually going on in the house, and you have to hear things by report.
Right.
And it could be that mom or dad aren't reporting accurately what the situation is. So that can be very stressful. And we tell these caregivers, you need to learn as much as you can about the situation. Learn about your parents' illness. Get legal documents in place. Have permission for the doctor to talk to you.
Right.
And make sure that somebody has power of attorney, and that all the involved caregivers know what each other is doing and what permissions there are.
Right.
And some other things that we also tell them too is, if there's dementia involved, or if there's diseases like Parkinson's or others that have national organizations, contact the Alzheimer's Association, contact the Parkinson's people, the MS people, because those organizations are disease specific and they can offer a lot.
Right, right. Now for folks, you mentioned Powerful Tools, which is a great resource, which is actually nationwide.
It
Obviously,
is.
people can get it, get hooked up into it here in Erie and Niagara counties too. But what would you recommend somebody do if they're a long-distance caregiver, their family member is here? Would they call the Erie County Department of Senior Services if they live in Erie County and just kind of get hooked up with you for some help?
Absolutely. They can call Erie County Department of Senior Services. Our case managers can direct them to the person that they need to speak with specifically. And we can also direct them to offices like ours in any county across the United States.
Right.
There's caregiver resource centers.
Yeah.
Can I talk about this
Sure,
book too?
sure.
Because when there's Alzheimer's disease or dementia, many times there's things that can be done to make the house safer or
Right.
easier to care for someone who has dementia or Alzheimer's disease. And this book is written by a gerontologist who's also an architect. And Mark Warner goes through every room in the house and outside and points out areas of concern or things to make it easier and safer. And it is just priceless.
Right.
Now, here in Erie County, we have a staff person trained who can actually do that walkthrough of a person's home. And again, that's just that phone call to senior
Right.
services.
Right, great. And that's the complete guide to Alzheimer's proofing your home.
It is.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll put the phone number up on the screen again as well. And thanks, Miriam.
My pleasure.
We'll be right back with more Aging is for Everyone.